Hi, my name is Andrew, and it would be my pleasure to take you through the journey that was my Furniture 2 project. I began this journey back in July, when COVID did not look so bad and classes were an in-person concept. I started researching the works of different designers who used wood bending in their work, as that was the main technique I wanted to focus on for this project. Though I wanted to touch on one of these designs briefly, and that is Beau Brush by Poppy Lawman. Its simple and elegant design embodies what I wanted to achieve for this project. There are numerous large and extravagant designs featuring daring curves and exotic woods in the world, but as a beginner to this craft, I needed to ground myself in the beauty I could attain. Moving on from this visual inspiration, I sought out a tangible understanding of the wood bending process. I was put onto a wonderful book by Jonathan Benson called A Woodworker's Guide to Bending Wood, published in 2016. In it, I found the details I needed, information about the internal versus external radiuses of a curve, the advantages of lamination versus steam bending, and the importance of heat, moisture, and compression for a reliable and even curve. With this knowledge in hand and a grand workshop at my disposal, I planned a test project, a simple bend with some holes drilled in it that I would turn into a coffee strainer. Then lockdown happened, and all my plans went away. Scrambling to keep on track, I did what I could. I practiced lamination with card, using paint cans and PVC piping as my form. Despite how much this disrupted my plans, I did learn a lot from this step. For example, there's a good reason for twists designers use a single piece steam bent rather than laminated. This is because when the wood is bent this way, it bows and is extraordinarily hard to prevent gaps from opening up across the surface. Finally, my first form and slats from the wonderful woodworking workshop arrived in the post. I prepared them with tape to prevent sticking, and my work session so it would all be neat and tidy for my first bend. It actually worked perfectly, and I felt assured that nothing could go wrong in this project. Of course, over the next few days I discovered that my glue was coming unstuck. After consulting with my teachers, I learned that the wood needs to be bent while wet, allowed to dry fully, then glued and reclamped. After repeating this process with the extra wood I had prepared, except implementing the new and improved process, I was actually successful in creating a piece of bent wood. As I moved into the design stage, I settled on designing a lamp or some variety of light fixture. To get a grasp on the designs I'd been drawing, I decided to create some tangible models out of card, wire, and some beads of hot glue. Then, to get a more realistic rendition, I modeled up some of my preferred designs in Fusion, exploring lampshades as I did it. To touch on the lampshades for a moment, I had the idea to 3D print the lampshades, allowing me to achieve shapes not traditionally used, and to complement or contrast the dynamic bends achieved through this process. I got some of these lampshades printed at a third scale so that I could use them as a more tangible connection and understanding what I was designing. In and amongst this design work I was doing, I came to the conclusion that the bend I would want to achieve cannot be done with a simple two-part form, but would instead require a more complicated strap bending rig. To validate my ability to perform this, I made a simple sample using the materials I already had and straps that I'd purchased for the task. Alright, so we've finished the basic design. And this is what I came up with: an elegant curve nested in a solid base with a diamond pattern lampshade. I knew I liked the lampshade on paper and had the rough scale model I'd made, but I had the idea of making a cuffed fabric sleeve that would cover the lampshade, An easy addition if the time and aesthetics permits it. The form arrived along with the slats from the woodworking lab, and I put it in my rig and crack. It just snapped in half. Because of the lack of end stops on my strap, they provided little to no compression on the wood as an entirety, instead pressing down on the ends. My solution to this? More clamps. Very conscious of how little wood I had and how long I'd have to wait for more to arrive, I used the snapped off pieces and set about doing a new bend. Unfortunately, I didn't get my clamping positions quite right. On the bright side though, I did get a far better result than last time. Finally, I repositioned the clamps and got back at it. Third time's the charm, it worked out with even the slightest cracking. On to the final, it worked as well as could be hoped for. Generally flat and with an even bend as I had hoped it would be. With the remnants of past failures around me, I set about putting together the final piece. All that was left was drilling the holes to put the dowels in and do a mock-up before gluing. Then it was off to be sanded and finished with linseed oil. While these various steps were drying, I set about the lampshade covers. A simple work with a sewing machine, but sure to be worth its while in the end. Now that we've reached said end point, I will leave you to enjoy the hero shots to an excerpt from Stratus's 2 Voice of Spring. I hope you enjoy.